What is going on, Neon Nation? Welcome back to the Neon Arcade. Hopefully, we've sorted out these technical issues. Again, we have Subsidian from the Triple S League here today and Andre from Night City Life. Um,
Hello, good evening.
yes, so we'll get Andre to kind of introduce his channel a little bit and, his blog and his website and things that he does in the Cyberpunk
Hello, good
2077
evening.
community. So yeah, we'll jump into that and then we'll jump into the regular news.
Okay, it is working, although Andre is a little bit louder this time. So,
Sorry.
no. That's I think if you just want to adjust that, Neon. But yes, how
Yeah.
is everybody doing? And yeah, oh goodness, I'm really loud too. So, how's everybody doing? We seem to have picked up tech gremlins,
Little bug
or
in the matrix
maybe
there.
maybe Rage Bartmos is sending some AI our way. Maybe yeah, what were they called?
The
Rabbits.
rabbits, yes.
The rabbits. Sorry, not rabbits. Rabbits with a D, not a T.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's because they breed like rabbits. If you get the haha, that's the way it goes. But yeah, so yeah, curse the internet and its many foibles
Yeah,
as
sorry
far
about
as
that, Chad. It's
bugs
obviously
and
it's never.
bugs and stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you have technical issues, but it does happen, and I'm not the most technically savvy person, so I'm glad we got it fixed. And yeah, let's just jump into. Andre, did you want to explain again
Yeah, sure.
what you do and
I'm Andre from Germany, and I run the German fan site for Cyberpunk 2077 Night City Live. We are there since about like 1 year and a half, I guess, and we are just the typical fan site you would expect. So we got coverage on news, interviews, we got some feature articles, we got interviews with the developers and cosplayers, and we also do reviews, for example, on stuff from the merchandise store.
hmm
And while most of the coverage we have is in German, on our fan site, we also try to publish as much content in English, which has a major impact on the fan community. Let's say, for example, interviews with developers, and we at least try to be more international on Instagram right now. That's pretty much what we do. Yeah.
nice. And so you guys went to Gamescom, correct? You guys.
Oh yes, and it was a blast actually because
Mm,
I have been to E3 and Gamescom. If you're a fan from Cyberpunk, it's even better because they have put so much focus on being close to the fans and showing stuff to to the fans and having developers right at the show floors.
hmm
So I guess that's again a good sign that CD Projekt Red is so dedicated towards the fans because they haven't hired just somebody for doing the presentations. It's always a developer who's working on the game, who's showcasing the game to others, and even the people who work on the booth, those people are all picked from the community. So they haven't just hired someone, they have hired fans which are really working a lot in the forums, and they have hired cosplayers who like
Right.
to do stuff for The Witcher and Cyberpunk, and they hired them to be the hosts at the booth, which is a really cool thing. And they had two major fan events during the booth. So they had the community party, which is even bigger and better than the one they did in Berlin, with many events taking place on that evening. And they had another one at the booth at Gamescom on Saturday in the Cosplay Village. They had Mike Pondsmith there, who hasn't been to Germany since 5 years now. And he was doing photos and autographs with the people. So it
hmm
was really a strong showing by CDPR. And they announced, of course, at least one of the major voice actors for the German version of the game, which is the longtime German voice for Keanu Reeves, Benjamin Folds. And that's just a great pick. For you guys who are from the US, you always got like your standard out of the box English version. But for us in Germany, it's a huge thing to have such
Hmm.
an famous and popular voice actor working on the game as well.
Mhm.
And he's doing many voices in German. He's doing Keanu Reeves, James Spader, Matthew McConaughey. He's doing Charlie Sheen, and he's really good. So that's a good sign for fans, at least. Deciding maybe picking the German version or the English one. That's a good sign that the English voiceover is going to be good.
Mhm. So did you get to listen to any of the German voice acting at all, or was it just the
Uh,
news that he is playing Keanu and?
I know they have even shown the German version at the show floor for the public booth.
Right.
So mostly the first and sometimes the second showing of the demo was in German, with
Oh,
a
okay.
complete German voice cast and function. So they had already done some recordings for that, and
Mhm.
they've of course shown it at the longer version of the demo as well.
Right.
So and I talked to the other bigger fan sites from Germany, to My Cyberpunk DE and Word of Cyberpunk, and people from the biggest Facebook community for Cyberpunk, and they all agree that the German voice cast is pretty good. Also for V, they haven't announced the names now, but people are already making some assumptions, and it's really good all across the board. Maybe the weakest one is just Sasquatch, because in the German version her voice is a little bit more like, yeah, let's say softer or more like girly like,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't fit that well to a strong character like Sasquatch, like a gang leader.
Sure, sure.
But that's something they could improve. But
Mm-hmm.
all in all, it's a great showing. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, though, I think the English Sasquatch was lacking a little bit as well. Now, in
Mhm.
comparing the German voice acting to the English, which one did you prefer, if you have a preference? Did you think
You mean with
one was better than the other, or are there,
I mean,
male
in my opinion, they should just get the same German lady to just do both versions, because especially somebody with a really big voice, because when I look at her, I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
she looks like she'd be German. No offense, of course, but yeah, no, she looks like a big strong lady. It's either that or go the snoo route from Futurama. So
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious what's coming up next, and when they reveal the names behind the voices. So, but I especially was very impressed by the female V, which is like just like as I imagined her, because she needed to be some ass kicking, a little bit more rebellious, and a little bit cocky at times, and that was exactly what she did with her voice and her role in the game. And so I would say that her performance was maybe the best, apart from the one who's doing Keanu Reeves or Johnny Silverhand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to the demos, did you get to see both the public and the private one, or just the public one? And what did you think about that compared to kind of the deep dive demo that we got maybe a week and a half ago?
Yeah, sadly, I hadn't the time to go to the public one. One member from our team, Annika, who's doing all the designs for web design, and who was doing the award, she was really happy about what she saw in the public booth,
Mm-hmm.
and especially with the Dolby Atmos setting. And well, I've seen the long version in English and German, and I've seen the deep dive, of course. And I have to say that for me, the deep dive was just a great addition to the gameplay, because the deep dive video wasn't spoiling the whole quest at all. It just showed parts of it, very
Right.
close related to gameplay, so
Mm-hmm.
you can actually see all the systems in action. And what was even better for me was that you get a better feeling for the world, because that was my main complaint about the E3 demo in total, because CDPR is very strong about telling stories, telling little stories, having great NPCs, and I was looking for more, stories on the side. And
Right.
the deep dive just did it very well because you've seen people in the streets, how people live there, how they look like, and what their surroundings are, and that was really great for the deep dive. So you really got a feeling for Pacifica as a district in Night City.
So there were significant changes between the E3 demo and the Gamescom one, or was it more subtle? Did you notice anything that was stand out?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, the what we've seen in the deep dive video in the beginning, the scene with the books, I guess that was added between E3 and Gamescom because Gamescom just started with V picking up some books and looking at it. That was what I noticed, and of course the whole time setting was a little bit different. So when we went to the Grand Imperial Mall and the E3 demo, it was already dawn, and in the Gamescom demo, it was still like pretty bright. You especially could see that when we was, for example, tackling the animals in the gym, because lots of sunlight was still coming through the windows. And when you've seen some of the scenes from the escalator and the vending machine, so from the upper windows, light was coming through. That was maybe the main difference, and some just minor tweaks, like the way we took through the level was a little bit different. The scene was lacking with the glass bottle, with that attack.
Okay, yeah.
That was completely left out. So there were just minor changes in terms of the playthrough.
Right. Hey, Gorillas fan, thank you for the $10. He says, went to PAX West last weekend. Mike Pondsmith was at a panel, and I asked him if we would see big names in red. He said yes, but won't tell if any of them will be in 2077. Interesting. Big names in red. Like, what do you mean by that? Celebrities? Like
No, I think he means like lore people, like people from within the game.
That makes more sense.
Like,
that was kind of a
like
stupid
you know,
comment.
is Johnny Silverhand,
Black Hand, yeah, stuff like that.
Cunningham, Blackhand, I'm sure Mad Queen's not here, but I'll ask or I'll mention it. Whether or not Rage Bartmos will be mentioned, other than posthumously. How do you say that? Like after he died, right? So
Postpartum.
So postpartum, whatever. So it's very
Postmortem.
There's a lot that can move in the character department. So this will be really, really interesting to kind of see how that'll show up, and then how that'll impact over the next couple of games. So
Yeah, no. We also got news this week, if you guys want to jump to multiplayer, that we are getting a multiplayer. It's no longer in research and development. So what do you guys think about that? Is that a exciting prospect for you? Are you guys a single player purists and you don't want multiplayer in your single player games? And this is after free DLC. This is after, they're finished wrapping up the single player experience.
Yeah, I guess it's important to point out that single player is a huge priority for CDPR because on the German social media channels always got comments like, no, they should invest more people and resources into single player. Multiplayer is just something added usually to games and not treated well. So I guess we have to make clear that they are focusing mainly on the single player, and that they got like a total separate team right now who's just building up to do a multiplayer, and after the research and development before. So, and I personally think it's pretty exciting because if you think of a Cyberpunk as a pen and paper role-playing game, working with people together, trying to solve a quest together to overcome any issues and enemies in the game, it could really capture the essence of the pen and paper role-playing game. If you, for example, have a group of 4 people doing multiplayer together, and if it's very if it has a strong focus on story, it could turn out just amazing.
Well, I suspect that we will have something that's not tied to the regular like story world. No, that's not the way to put it. So I don't think we'll have V as the main character in the multiplayer, because you'd just be running around with many other Vs, unless you find out that V's not actually immortal, or maybe V is immortal because they just have a million clones, and then the multiplayer is like trying to figure out who the real V is, or just taking over the world as Vs, and you're just you could go anywhere with that kind of idea. With this kind of world, like literally, it's like if I told you, well, actually, it turns out the V is just a big virus from Rage Bartmos, and and you just like once you discover this during the single player, you get to the multiplayer, and you're just running around causing havoc. You're actually a rabid. So, and if I were to tell you that, or if that was what would happen, most people would go, "Oh, cool story," right? Because it's this kind of a world where you could basically have literally anything happen, even though that's ridiculous and we're not going to have that happen. But it's still, yeah, maybe V is for virus. I was thinking about that, Mr. Tuco. It's an idea, right? But no, I think the multiplayer will be kind of like separated, kind of like how Red Dead is. Red Dead 2's got the general multiplayer and the story, and they're not really super connected. So, it's mostly just stuff to do. And I think you'll find the same thing in there. So
they could take so many avenues with that, with Braindance, the net.
Yeah.
I mean, just being in the real world and having it like kind of similar to GTA Online, I think is the most common comparison. So there's so many different avenues, but it's nice to know that they've kind of nailed down a vision, and they're going forward, past research and development and actually creating this. Because it could have been stuck in limbo forever.
Just to add to what Triple S League said, I totally agree to that, because the best thing you could do is to ditch V completely as a character and have maybe what I'm actually hoping for is I could draw many comparisons to what was done to Hitman as an episodic content, because I could imagine that they do like a whole campaign with new characters, new people, and completely new story. And then you've got several quests you can play one after another, and you can play the storyline of it. And then you can make changes and adjustments to that quest and the whole setting, and play out different things you can enjoy, and just tweak it a little bit. Because completely leaving V alone makes more freedom for you in terms of creativity, what you can do multiplayer, and also leaves more possibilities for, of course, a sequel to 2077. So you can do whatever you want in a totally new environment, and I guess that's the best approach maybe for CDPR.
Just so keeping with this, I want to know what your guys' ideas are for what would your preferred multiplayer type be? Are you hoping for like just death matches? Are you hoping for something a little bit more expansive? Are you hoping for battle royale? Like what are your guys' what do you want to come on into the game and find right there as far as the multiplayer goes?
You just made 10 enemies in chat by saying battle royale.
Well, I'm asking you if what you would prefer. I'm not saying anything. My idea of what I would really hope to see would basically be like a type of a kind of a little similar to like Payday, where it's like you're setting up a job, right? You've got to do and pull off the job correctly, which means everybody's got to be doing exactly what they need to do in order to successfully complete the mission. But then at some point, somebody's going to screw up, and then everything goes sideways, and you're trying to recover, and there's no like restart at certain checkpoints. It's like you start or you fail, and that's it. And then the you have to like try and like earn your way up the ladder by doing like more and more complex missions. So you actually have a reason to like get together every week or every other day or whatever, and try to like really plan out your goal. And by the time you're doing the top like 10% of the missions, like the really hard, complicated, very difficult ones, you've got your whole team there and everybody's like trying to like play it at once. I think that would be pretty cool, irrespective of like DCs and crashing and run into take care of the kids or something like that. It's like, this would be fun for me. I would really enjoy this. Something that's hard, that's not easy to just like, okay, failed that one, let's just go and spam this mission over and over and over again. It's like I kind of don't like that. I want something with a little bit more weight to it.
Right.
So
I think a more like if you guys have ever played The Division Dark Zone, I think maybe a more expansive kind of version of that within kind of maybe a more GTA Online-esque world would be cool. I think they can. There's the potential to incorporate almost everything: PvE, PvP. Just I don't see team deathmatch being, something that they go after. I think that's a little bit too overdone. I think balancing all the abilities or even stripping them would be kind of a disservice to the game. So I don't see that happening. But as far as the rest of it, I think the possibilities are kind of limitless. We also did have the social hub rumors back in the day. I don't know if that's been completely debunked.
That was. So originally, I'll speak a little bit more to that. So
Sure.
originally, the multiplayer was seamless transition. So basically, you'd be playing, and then you wanted to hop into your friend's game, or you wanted to invite your friend, or you want to just look for random people. You go to kind of like a little social hub, you talk with people, or you meet up with your friends or whatever, and then you just kind of transition over. It's very seamless. It was very like, if you're on somebody's list, you could just literally hop into their game. But that kind of really fell through as far as like the tech and a bunch of issues, and then of course with the storyline, and then it's like with it's really gonna make your game kind of weird, as if you're sitting there, you're pushing the story, like something big has just happened, and you're sitting there you're on the street talking with somebody, who's a mission contact, and you're going through the dialogue choices, and you're just talking. Suddenly somebody shows up, runs over your contact, kills them, lights up every enemy in the vicinity. They're like, literally everybody is shooting at you and your buddy, and he's like, come on Jimmy, get in the car, we gotta go Jimmy. It's like, oh Dan, why are you here? Why did you come right now? Did you have to? So that they ran into issues with that. So that's one of many of the reasons why, as far as I've heard, that multiplayer was kind of pulled back a little bit. And this is one of those things where, again, it's like it had originally been in the get-go as kind of like the core idea was right there from the very get-go, that the multiplayer mode would be side by side, but they just ran into too many difficulties. Not only that, but they also really bumped up the graphics. And by bumping up the graphics, they had to, of course, they have to downscale some of that tech a little bit. So,
Hey John, I appreciate the £10. He had an idea, he says, of a multiplayer mode where you and your friends play as Trauma Team, and you have to save a client and escort them to safety. P.S. You guys are amazing. Have a great day. You're amazing.
Thank you. You're amazing.
A good idea.
I think that's a good idea.
And that is another great example of like how much content and possible, like how many different avenues there are to this. There's so many things that you can do with this world as far as like multiplayer. As much as I hate to say it, a variation of a battle royale would actually be pretty cool. If you were to have a world set up where it's like, it's not like a shrinking map, but it's like you're infected with a virus and you're all trying to like find the cure.
Yeah,
and
like
you've
a
got
turf war would fit nicely.
Yeah, like kind of like a turf war type thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you could do. Like it's really quite amazing as to the availability that they could have.
Yeah, I'm a little bit afraid of that, because that's just having more like the traditional shooting games. It reminds me a little bit of the fate of Shadowrun. You remember the Shadowrun shooter, which was horrible because it got the Shadowrun license, but at the shooter, it completely sucked. So I was really afraid of actually having that battle royale and classic shooter experience. And as I said, CDPR is so good at doing great stories. Why not combine that and do more deeper content with that? And interesting to see is if you look at the job listings right now they got for multiplayer, they are hiring a character artist. So, which is actually kind of interesting because they are not reusing assets. It seems like from the game itself.
No,
So they have,
I think they're adding additional assets. That would be
sure. So
kind of
that could,
an important differential there. They're obviously wanting to make some particular things for multiplayer that are not in the main game, which makes a lot of sense if you're playing as like a particular team or something like that. If there's team colors, or if there's like if you're playing Trauma Team versus like Ruffians or whatever, it's like there's a lot of room to play in there. They could be doing some form of like gang war where you play as like any one of the literally thousands of different gangs within the game, but they right now they only have a very small number of them. They've got a whole bunch of other ones that they would like to create maybe specifically just for multiplayer. Like the bozos may not necessarily fit in with the regular world as far as like the particular story that they're telling now, but that's something that they would be very interested in adding to the multiplayer, along with a whole bunch of the other ones. There's like some gothic some gothic gangs, some super cyborgy type gangs, and some crazy like bio sculpting gangs. All of these things are things that I don't think we will see all of them in the base game. We'll hear about some of them for sure, but this is to me is a sign that we're definitely not playing V. We're playing other characters, and they may very well introduce a third-person camera into the multiplayer, depending on what type of multiplayer they're going for. It's definitely something that would be there as an option, because it just tends to go over a little bit better when you have it like that. Plus, if they want to monetize any kind of like costumes or outfits or whatever, first person doesn't work for that. Apex has showed us this. The average Apex purchase for skins, for armor skins, is running around the 20% mark of what you have for Fortnite. So
Do you even think they want to go down that path
but
though? They're
well, no,
pretty
I'm
anti-
just throwing out detail.
Okay,
Please
yeah.
don't take that as anything positive. This is just me throwing out like reasons
Potential.
to have in your mind, so that when you're looking at the scenario, you're going, oh, okay, obviously this would be a little bit different. But it's also
but
like collectibles too. So
but the thing is, I got the problem with why just copy traditional multiplayer modes you see in other games and just put the skin of CDPR or
I don't
Cyberpunk
think they're
over
going to
it.
do that.
No, but because you were talking about like more traditional, because you compare it to like Payday or something like that. Because when I, for example, talk to my toast about the game itself, and I was always thinking about it in the terms of they want to do something special and new and cool with Cyberpunk. He also said, no, we also want to do a role-playing game where you have as much freedom as you have never had before in terms of how you can evolve your character and your role and how you can play out things just as you ever wanted to do in an RPG. And I think that they pick that up, that all of role playing and stuff like that, and mold it into an multiplayer experience, because that is what they could do best. Why should they try to copy or at least adjust traditional game mechanics from other games with multiplayer when they could explore more on the role playing aspect of it? Even though, because it's got more in common with the experience of the pen and paper itself.
Right. And think about how
Well,
big
that's I think that's always where they were wanting to go with this, but you also have to remember that there's a significant amount of limitations that you have when it comes to a lot of multiplayer. They're still running this on the old consoles, so right there we have limitations for size, map scope, player numbers, NPC, and like the interacting with the world through characters and whatnot. You have a huge limitation on that, without turning it into like some kind of, which they may, and I'm not putting anything here in a box, but if they're not going to host this on a massive server, that's going to be different. If it's like lobby, or if it's like just you like connecting in with a friend, that's a little bit different than if they were to like open this up and basically kind of go like the more open world online route. That's a totally different ball game that we're talking about. And so it depends on which of those things is actually in development, because again, their original concept was very like system to system. It was not like huge online world that you're constantly connecting to get that multiplayer system. That may have changed. That may be where they're headed with it now. But as far as like multiplayer, like options of like what to do in multiplayer, we're actually pretty limited, and we've been pretty limited by technology for quite a while now. We've moved away from like, there used to be games that you could play where you'd have like, 20,000-30,000 units on at play. And because of the way that tech moved, we dropped those things. One of the things in one of the original Elder Scrolls games was there was towns that had, tens of thousands of buildings in them, or tens of thousands of people and buildings combined. You don't have that anymore because of the way that the tech has evolved, and CDPR hasn't reinvented the technology window as far as what they can do. So they're a little limited to basically what we've seen from most other people, with the exception of like integrating more story elements into it. But even then, they're fairly limited with that because of the way that that's gone. The new consoles will be kind of open that up a fair bit, but not for this current gen. But by then we will be mostly playing this on the new gen, and a new gen requirement may be an option for this if this does come out 2 years from release, which is an option. I suspect we'll see it within 2 years, from probably like close to this fall, but we will definitely not see it within like 6 months. Definitely
I know.
not.
Well,
I mean,
I
I
guess
think a
they are
big,
still recruiting. You can see they are still recruiting a design director who's actually driving the whole concept and the whole vision behind the project, and they are still searching for him. And he has to have experience of 10 years with AAA games. So that must be somebody who's already quite known maybe in the industry. So they have huge expectations on what level of quality they want to achieve with the multiplayer. So I guess they're still building up things, especially what you can see if you look at the network programmers they are looking for. So they still need to, I guess they got like the basic level of netcode ready to know what they can work with. But now they really need to code it and to build it up and integrate that to the Red engine, and that takes the time, I guess.
I think just a big sandbox in general makes sense because they're always pushing of this player freedom and choice, and the fact that they are hiring someone that needs these steep credentials just means that this thing is going to be more massive than you know what I mean? So I think a big sandbox makes sense. If you guys look at the GTA role-playing community, that thing exploded over the last, year and a half. The NoPixel servers, you see all the Twitch streamers doing the role-play. I think that would fit perfectly into Cyberpunk 2077, but within the confines of a sandbox, not exactly just a specific game mode oriented to that. Because you can have your player base choose what they want to do within that open world, right? So you can have mini games and sub games within that big world that the player is choosing to do.
Yeah, and I could also see them doing more, like if you look at a game just like Deus Ex, for example, where you have more like missions in a more like hub-based world. So I could also see them going back to a design just like that for multiplayer. So you can have some kind of exploration in the world, and you have a more like engaged mission where you have to do some stuff, and then you've got like them like different missions and different quests you have to fulfill, and then that could maybe even take you to other parts of the world in the 2077 setting. maybe not just a nice city, but somewhere else, let's say in Europe or India or something like that. You could play with that whole world even more, and I guess that could be pretty exciting if you have a team of players who just have to go out and do stuff. So that's maybe something we could look forward to as well.
Hmm. And there's also the mini games that they've already spoke on, right? There's the racing and what are the other ones? There's a shooting range. I mean,
Shooting
that could
range.
play a part.
We have,
Yeah,
and we've got more and more rumors coming out as far as like the mini games that they're offering. Keep hearing something about some kind of like type of like gambling type thing, kind of like 21 or um,
Hmm.
something where it's like you just kind of your character
you
just
know
walks
that
up
board
to it.
game they've shown in the screenshot, for example.
Mhm.
Moncala, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
casino
So
would make sense
there's
as
a
well because in one of the screenshots you see something that says Devil's Luck and there's like an ace of spades. So that
hmm
could be it, but that's obviously in the single player. But yeah, they can add so many different things. It's I mean the possibilities
and
are
what
endless.
I was also thinking about, it would be cool if you could, for example, have like a level editor for gamers, so they could set up their own stories and their own quests.
yeah.
Hmm.
So if you've got
Yeah.
like a little toolbox, something like that, and you can rearrange certain things in a level and in the quests and make your own, just as they do right now. And for example, Assassin's Creed, as far as I can remember, or for example, to come back to Hitman, where you can create your own missions and set your own limitations. That could be really exciting as well, because there are many people who are doing like great fan stories and fan fiction, and I could
hmm
see that there is a huge community for that, creating your own cyberpunk content with stories to tell and missions and quests for people to do.
Hmm.
Well, and that's one of the things that's really interesting to note as far as like what they could potentially do is I honestly think that they probably could potentially look at kind of the way, like you said, kind of the so Larian Studios has their map creator and like D&D, like you can go in through as a GM and kind of take players through it and play along with you. That's really awesome, and I really liked the way that they approached that. I also really enjoyed the way that that oh wait um, can't talk about that yet. There's also some other cool stuff on the horizon that's coming out eventually that kind of does the same thing. And I think overall, I think you hit the nail on the head here, because what we're seeing is we're seeing this like rush back to more traditional style. I don't know how you describe it. More traditional feeling of like gamers playing with gamers in more of the traditional way, so more of like the D&D ways than what we have right now, which is like insta queue with a bunch of people you don't know, and oh, I forgot to leave, I left the fill spot in on my team, and we got some random kid in here, and he just starts talking, and well, I guess we got to shoot him and put him out of his misery, and it's like stuff like that. It's like it's kind of lost the flavor. It's why classic WoW is doing so well right now, is because you don't just auto queue. You actually have to like get to know people and form actual relationships. And turns out that that's one of the things the gamers love doing the most. So I think you're onto something here with the concept. So
Hmm.
Yeah, you can see that. For example, if you have other creative games like for example, Dreams from the Little Big Planet makers, where you can have your own community with people rating stuff levels you do. You gain ranks in terms of content creator for maybe the cyberpunk world, and everyone likes your stories and plays your games, or your gain ranks as a good netrunner, maybe. So people form new communities, and you can see, for example, I was even surprised because I grew up with pen and paper role playing games like the Dark Eye and Star Wars and things like that back then. So we actually had to sit together on a table to play it. But right now you've got so many possibilities, and when I see people playing Cyberpunk Red, crossing continents and doing it online on YouTube together in a stream. There are so many people who can find themselves in communities to play Cyberpunk in a great story-driven way. So, of course, you have got always the troll who is just crashing into your game and ruining it. But I think you can also do like just your private party, and you meet, just as in the podcast here every Sunday. You've got the regular group of people playing together, and that's a strong possibility for the multiplayer of Cyberpunk as well.
That's a great point. Like, a lot of these things have to be community driven, and I think if they invest a little bit more into the making a game or a mode that is honors the kind of the community and the making friends and having to talk to one another, it's gonna be a good thing. So do you guys want to jump on to news about crafting that we got this week? I don't know if you guys are up to date.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so someone reached out to the Facebook page and asked them, "Hey guys, I really love the Q&A you guys did, which revealed some important information. Are there different types of ammo for each weapon? Is ammo craftable? What can you craft in general?" And so the 2077 Facebook page responds with, "Since we have no classes in the game, everyone can craft, but you need to invest in the right perks. You'll be able to craft multiple items, including armor, shards for cyberware, weapon modules, special weapons, consumables, and gadgets." Does this entice you guys to maybe play a little bit more of a techie-oriented character, or what are you guys' thoughts on this?
I guess it's still hard to tell, because they've shown not very much about the techie at all, because I had high hopes for them showing a playthrough from the E3 demo at Gamescom with the techie, but they didn't. They just talked about it. So for now, it's hard to imagine what the techie is actually about, just apart from cutting and putting cables together and having the flat hat.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I guess he's not heavier, as you just expressed. I guess he's not heavy on crafting than the other ones.
Right. And I wonder why they didn't show the kind of techie abilities during the deep dive. They kind of just focused on the Netrunner and the solo. I think techie's lacking a little bit of love there. CDPR, you need to show some more techie oriented stuff in the future.
The thing with crafting is, so it's one of these things with that. It's like, man, it is so good in some games that you play the game to basically craft, and to gather crafting, and to really like just do it constantly. But then there are other games where the crafting is just basically hot garbage, and you can't get yourself, like, you can't get away from it fast enough. And there's a whole bunch of examples where there was one major game release where they scrapped the entire crafting system 2.5 months to release, and tried to rebuild it, and it was pretty terrible.
That's rough.
And we were sitting there thinking, at what point was this like before? Because I swear, if this is how it is now, was it so bad and so atrocious that it was just absolute garbage? Or is there a level that they've said, oh, actually, we just kind of didn't do this right, and they thought that they had a bag of garbage when they didn't, and they realized to themselves, like, oh, actually, what makes sense is if we actually go out of our way to listen to what the fans want, because they didn't. At some point, there was a drop in like what they were making and what they were giving to the players, and we think what was there originally was actually a lot more fun than what ended up being there, because it's like what we got was the worst thing possible.
I guess it's just a question of accessibility, because I don't remember who it was. The developer said that they don't want to alienate players just because of crafting, so that people don't feel like they have to do it and invest more time to be successful. So I believe that crafting is more like adding to your individual play style. So if you want to have the just right weapon or the just right gadget, you can build it the way you like it, but you don't have to craft and build to be successful in the game. I guess that is what they are aiming for. But of course, that could maybe end up in a lack of depth to it. I don't know. But I guess that is what they are pretty much aiming for. Yeah.
Well, I think that's fair. Yeah, so does anybody have any questions in the chat? We haven't seen too many questions today. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. What did you guys think about the overall kind of the skills and the attributes and the perks, the kind of three-pronged approach they're taking when it comes to combat? Do you think that's going to pay off in the long run, or is it a little bit too complex, or what are you guys thinking about that?
I was just sad that they haven't shown like a true evolvement of one skill, because I would have liked to see, okay, you start here and you can go up and pick this and this perk and go up there. That would be more interesting to see what you can actually do with it. They just gave slight impressions of what is possible. But for example, I haven't seen actually how you can pick a certain perk which is connected to a skill so far. So that was something I would like to see more.
For sure. Sib, what kind of character are you thinking of?
I think, well, I like what they are offering us so far, because I think it's actually a fair amount. If you approach any situation and you say, how can you get past this person? There's only so many ways that you can actually get past the person, and they seem to have added most of them to it. So you can get past them by creating a distraction or by sneaking past them. You can get past them by bluffing them or sweet talking them. I think that's going to be an option in some scenarios. I think that's probably going to be the least of the common options, but it would be very interesting to see how that plays out. I think you'll have to sneak past most people. It's not like I don't think you can walk up to the animals and basically be like, hey, I want to go talk with Sasquatch. I don't think they're going to just let you go talk to Sasquatch. So, I mean, and I could be wrong about that, and kudos if I am, because that means that we have more options. But then the fact that you also have, like, you could stealthily kill, you could, brute force with other weapons. It's like there's a good number of ways to get around it, and I think that's probably the best thing.
So
yeah. I think I was a little bit disappointed when I saw the Netrunner and the E3 playthrough, because when I looked back to the pen and paper role-playing game, in my terms of how I imagined Netrunner, I expected more like, let's say, stealth and more defensive actions he could actually do, because if you saw the E3 demo with all the Netrunner skills in action, he just looked badass, and I expected more like a sneaky secret guy who wants to infiltrate a certain area, who can distract people more and has more non-lethal skills at hand. They said that the Netrunner will have that, but I really wish to see more of that, because, for example, there was the glue program, which actually glues one enemy to the ground if you want to leave. So that's kind of a funny skill to use when you were, for example, detected by another enemy. And I hope to see that there are more playthroughs which are non-lethal. And because right now it's kind of heavy combat focused in the game. And I hope they show more on that part of the game, because they talked about it, and I'm pretty sure they implemented that, but they need more time to show it.
Yeah, even with the Netrunner, they've talked a little bit about being a combat Netrunner, right? So you're right when they say these playstyles are a little bit more combat focused. I hadn't heard about the glue skill. Is that something you saw in the E3?
No, it wasn't in the game. There was just an example. Pen and paper skill or a program that I could imagine being used in the game easily. For example, if you just want to pinpoint an enemy and run away, without getting into a firefight, and that would have been an easy program to realize, and the video game just
Right. No.
came up with that idea. I haven't seen it in action now.
Mm-hmm. So in your character playthrough, you're gonna be more of a attempting to be a stealthy netrunner. Is that what you're, or are you leaning more towards a solo? How are you gonna play the game?
Oh well, I guess I'm more like a sneaky netrunner and hacking things,
Mm-hmm.
and all, like really looking around and seeing all the possibilities at hand, what I can do with my environment, and really going into the game without being detected and seen. That's pretty cool. And then as a backup, of course, I have some weapons and some more malware I can upload. But yeah, I guess my first approach for the game would be to go in and do my job pretty much unseen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So in the same kind of topic here, the UI. They've changed the UI as we saw in the deep dive demo. It's the color scheme is a little bit different. Obviously, the layout is different. What did you guys think about that? A lot of people have not been too keen on at least the color change from a basic standpoint, and I think they're thinking that the character creator has been dumbed down, which isn't the case. But did you guys like it better? Did you guys like the 2018 one better?
I guess one of the major additions stuff like the minimap, right? So
Right.
they changed that. I'd say more like Elder Scrolls Compass style, and switch it to a minimap. I guess that's maybe nice
Mm-hmm.
because in terms of the overall orientation in the game, and I don't know about the lack of red, which is now in the menus. I don't know. Actually, it's all a little bit more subtle right now.
Mm-hmm. But does that scream like cyberpunky to you, or do you prefer the red? Obviously, kind of stands out more. The brown is a little bit more, maybe a little bit more reflective of the district that they were showing off, kind of like a downtrodden, you know, less colorful area. I don't know if that was a artistic choice that they chose for the deep dive demo, or if that was reflective in the E3 and Gamescom demos.
Well, maybe because the game can be quite colorful and quite, let's say, chaotic at times. Maybe it's good to have actually a menu on a screen which is more like yeah, like I don't know. That's not saying a holiday from the action you've got in the game, but like having more like contrast to the
Right.
game. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the red can be, well, I don't know. It's really like pin in the eye somehow. Yeah, at times maybe. I don't know. What is your opinion?
I personally preferred the 2018 one a little bit more. I think, just looking at it, I think the sliders and stuff are a little bit more apparent, so it's kind of
Mm,
easier to navigate. But I saw an edit on Reddit with like kind of the red text overlaid on top of the existing one in the deep dive demo, and that looked like a good
mm,
mix. So I think
mm,
they'll obviously it's a work in progress. The game is
Hmm.
still what 7 months away, so they can fix all these things. I'm just wondering why they decided to show um, a lot of things that they're like I don't know. The UI seems like that's a heavy work in progress, but it looks like it's from a visual standpoint, it looks like it's been dumbed down since 2018, which isn't the case because they've come out and said that the character creator and all these things are expanded and the menus are expanded. So I don't know why they decided to show that, but yeah, I prefer the 2018 one.
Yeah, I think overall we have to remember that this game is, especially the character creator is, it's been in a constant state of flux for a really long time, and I do think that the 2018 one was a little bit better. It was lacking some options, but now we have a little bit more options, and but now it's like it looks less smooth, it looks less good. It's a little bit more clunky. So I mean, I guess we'll see where it ends up, and I don't suspect that they're gonna make a like a just make a terrible outcome with it. I think there's obviously, they've got a lot more to do, and I think it can be a lot better than kind of where they're at right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that the game, because all of the cyberware you can use quite heavy on at times in the gameplay in terms of UI. You've got lots of maybe details popping up just depending on the level of cyberware you've upgraded. So I can imagine lots of stuff is happening on screen. If you have even as much in the menus popping up, it could be really distracting the players.
Right.
That could maybe
Mm-hmm.
have like a comparison to that, yeah, or
Yeah.
counter that. Yeah.
I think that's why half the reason they introduced the hardcore mode is so they're giving you the option to play without all these, quote unquote visual clutter, even if it's like a little bit. They're giving you the option, so I think that's a cool little workaround for them. Um, we have some more news from last week. It's not too substantial, but they've finally released the North American merch store. They originally said that they were gonna release it in August. It came, I think, a couple days ago. Was it 3, 4, 5 days ago at this point? So, are you guys into the merch store at all? I know Andre, you've gotten a couple things from the
Mhm.
European store, and you've reviewed them. So, how's the quality on those? Um,
Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the quality, especially if you look at the quality of the prints, for example, on the shirts.
right.
They've got quite a variety of stuff already in there in terms of clothing you can have. The Cyberpunk 2077 shirt, for example, is a little bit thinner than the regular shirt you would expect, so it could be a little bit more, yeah, easier to damage maybe. But it was, on the other hand, very convenient during a summer like this to have a more thinner shirt. But the
Sure.
quality is really good so far, and there are many great products you can enjoy as a fan, and with more stuff to come. And I also want to cover more on the new stuff which has just shown up. But there are many categories for products which are still missing, which we hopefully see in the future and closer to release. Then, yeah, but so far it's a really good start, and the overall quality is really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. V of Rivia asks, I hope the districts are visually distinct. Like to point, you can just tell what district is from a random picture. I think that's the goal. They have
Yeah.
obviously the 6 districts, and then they have the 3 distinct visual styles of or 4 visual styles: entropism, neo-kitsch, kitsch, and neo-militarism. I think each district is going to look visually unique. As you can see in Pacifica, it looks quite a bit different than what we saw in 2018. So I think they'll nail that. I think that's a
Yeah, that was already expressed by, I guess, the senior level designer Toast in the deep dive. Yeah, because he said then you could land up in any of the districts, and just looking around you, you which district you are in the game because of all the different assets and the different points of interest they have picked to design level. And in a district, you will already know what kind of cultural influences will be there and how people live in that district, because it's all reflected in the design. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
then they also have the Badlands layered on top of that, so that's just even more,
Yeah.
uniqueness incorporated into the game.
But to come back to the store, what are you looking forward to in the store, and what would be your first choice to buy, maybe?
It's kind of funny because the US store doesn't have as many options, obviously, as the EU one at this
yes,
point,
yeah.
so it's kind of hard
I
to
have noticed that I have noticed that for some reason I still can't get the mantis blades for my arms. I'm a little annoyed by that. I keep telling them like, "Hey, when are you going to get these in here? I've been waiting for this long. I have a specific Android body that I've been using for a really long time, and I really, really want those mantis blades." But they keep saying delayed, delayed, delayed. So I don't know. It's yeah, but other than that, like the style is very great. I'm really looking forward to like maybe some of the jackets and maybe some of the shirts. So
Uh-huh.
hmm And I'm sure those will roll out over time. We're a little bit behind EU. You guys have all the
mhm.
new Trauma Team shirts and the Maelstrom stuff, so Hopefully
Yeah,
we'll
but
get that in, dude.
they plan to have the same contents for both markets,
Sure,
so
sure,
it
yeah.
just takes a little bit time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense.
yeah. I just hope they do more like figurines and props from the game world. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I also like games like Fallout, and I'm always envy if you look at cool stuff they have, like the Pip-Boy and
Mm-hmm.
little miniature cars and trucks from the game. So apart from the figure which is in the collector's edition of the game, I'm really looking forward to have a decent quality, maybe Reason or something else model of the Jaiba Kusanagi motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
I can just display in my room. That would be awesome to have.
Sure, yeah. I know a lot of
And
people are into those collectibles and stuff, so having some
yeah,
more for those kind of there is the Ronin statue, the Geralt one, but that's
yeah, something like that. That would
yeah.
be nice.
Hmm.
And maybe more like corporate stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
You know,
more advertisings from the game you could put on your wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
would forgive them for literally everything if they introduced. There's a couple of like miniature sites that do this, where you basically in a 3D like little window, you basically create your character, and then you select the pose, and then you add a whole bunch of like items, gear, weapons, stuff. They've got sliders that affect like pretty much everything about the character, and then you can have that print like 3D printed up and mailed to you within like a week. And I'm like, huh, that sounds like a great idea.
mm-hmm.
So maybe they could do that for V. I mean, just like be able to print up our own V's into a little statue. That'd be cool. I would be okay with this. No, I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a really good option. I highly encourage them to look into it because it's pretty cool.
Wishful thinking there,
Just a
but
little bit. Just a
a
little
cool
bit.
concept.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
we're a few years ahead of that still. It's coming. It's coming. Just not right away.
and there was some cool stuff I have seen during the community party. I guess the easiest one to reproduce were the cyberpunk cushions they had. So they had cyberpunk and samurai cushions and pillows. That's something I would love to see in the store. And they got two neon signs with samurai and cyberpunk, and they just look really rad. But I guess they're too expensive to sell them in a store. But they are really awesome.
Was
But
there was there a full body Jackie pillow?
no, sorry.
Damn it.
Yeah, we
Damn
really
it.
want those full body Jackie pillows. I mean, come on, come on. That's the good stuff right there.
So while you were out there, Andre, did you get any cool kind of interviews or sit downs with some developers one on one to kind of ask your questions? Were you given opportunities to
Sadly,
see?
I haven't got that good opportunities at Gamescom in terms of developers. So I just had a half an hour interview with the German voice actor
Right.
for Johnny Silverhand, and it turns out he's even a rock star too because he's a musician as well, and he's doing art as well, and yeah, and we talked about the similarities between him and his character and in his past, and that was
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because Benjamin Foltz is really a nice guy to talk to, and as a German, it's always funny if you listen to him, you always try to to recognize, okay, which character's name is he currently
Mm-hmm.
talking in. For example, sometimes he sounds a little bit like the German Charlie Sheen and stuff like that. But that's not that interesting for English people. I will put some subtitles to the interview for later, so you can enjoy that as well. But no, sadly haven't got that many chances at Gamescom to talk to developers. No,
Mm-hmm.
not this time.
Well, it's okay. You got a lot of good stuff at E3,
They're,
and that was only a month or two
they
before,
they
so
are a little busy at the moment, and they're
true.
very hard to get a hold of.
They're
So
kind of making a game. It's kind
yeah,
of big.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
But it's
hope
it
to
is
to
it is
see.
cool.
Yeah, I just hope to see more about actually the car in the game because
Mhm.
that's a feature in the game they have spoken about like many months ago, but there's several features and things which are not clear right now. So and
Mm.
they're still pushing it a little bit more behind topic-wise. So I am really curious about what is coming up with car customization in your garage and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and paint jobs and upgrades. They haven't really talked into detail
Mm-hmm.
with that. So that's still an issue and something I look forward to getting more intel. Yeah.
Sure. We have a question from Red77. He says, "Do you think they'll show new trailers at the end of the year, like at the Video Game Awards? I guess when are you guys expecting maybe new trailers or new content to be dropped from
We
CDPR?"
will continue to get new information dropped out on a bi-weekly basis almost from CDPR. So we're talking about more screenshots. We're talking about more interviews. We're talking about not all of this stuff every 2 weeks. I'm talking about a collection of
Staggering
one
it.
of these things. Yeah, and they're going to be staggering it basically from now until launch. We will probably be a little bit quiet in September and October, just because that's heavy drop month, right, for most games. So those will be probably the most quiet months. But once we get into January, once we get into February of the next year, I mean, expect to start seeing ads everywhere. Expect to see more interesting this media campaign that they have been talking about for so long, and that we've known for so long that they've been working on. There's so much cool stuff coming down the road, but again, it's gonna be staggered out pretty slowly. So don't get too worried, but at the same time, it's like don't overhype yourself either. As far as like what we're gonna expect in the next few months here, it'll probably be quite quiet until we hit the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess with the deep dive video being released or PAX, maybe we will have to wait a little further, because I had really high hopes to see a TGS trailer, because for The Witcher they did a TGS trailer in 2013 and 14, so just before release. And I think it could still be a possibility to have a small trailer just for TGS, maybe even showing more of the Asian districts in Night City, which would be a nice nod to being in Japan.
True.
I don't know,
That would be cool.
but still maybe on the cards. But yeah, I guess as you said, there are so many regular updates. As a fan site owner, we are all happy, because content weekly you can write about, so they're pretty good at doing stuff and telling a little bit new every week right now. So there's not much to complain about right now.
Right. I think early 2020 is going to be a pivotal time as well, because I think that's when they're getting media and journalists. They're going to be able to get their hands on the game and play it. So, I mean, obviously gunplay has been quote unquote criticized here and there, just by looking at it, but it's hard to kind of critique it without playing it. So, I mean, we're going to get a lot of impressions and first-hand demos and stuff like that in early 2020. And for the rest of the year, yeah, maybe Tokyo Game Show. I'd like to see that. They have the Yaiba Kusanagi live size whatever model. Have you guys seen that?
Oh yes.
Cool. Oh yes, yes. That's quite the interesting thing.
Yeah, and the cosplayer Arena Maya well for CD.
Oh, so, she's going there as well.
Yeah, she already told us that she will work for CDPR there. So I guess she will even pose next to the motorbike. Maybe, I don't know.
Cool.
And yeah, that's cool stuff. And I am still curious, by the way, about what could be the trophy of the Cyberpunk cosplay contest. Maybe it's even the motorbike. I don't know. Because they already teased that they got an amazing, fantastic trophy for the winner. But maybe it's the bike. I don't know.
That is a good one. At first, I'm like, no, wait, because of but then I'm like, oh wait, well, the other thing. Oh yes, well, actually, that could be a thing. I doubt it, but I think that's actually, definitely on the list of possibilities. But yes, the other thing I was thinking more so is that they might add the person into the game with some lines of their own, or some like some like kind of for a particular scenario or something like that, that would actually be really cool.
Like
To
a
do
random
like a face
NPC in the
capture.
back or something.
Yeah, yeah, or like maybe a character skin in the multiplayer. That's
Hmm.
something else
Okay.
that is a possibility. Stuff like this, we have been waiting for this to happen when it comes to big AAA like games and cosplay stuff. Is to start incorporating some of the cosplay, because cosplay drives, like, you want to talk about turning in like 50 million people to watch something, or to be subscribed to something. It's like, yeah, just get a whole bunch of cosplay artists to do a whole bunch of stuff, and suddenly you're tracking upwards on it. This has been going on for a little while. They did have that cosplay TV show. There's been some other stuff that's been slowly working out, but I mean, geez, I went to this one character. Somebody sent me a link to this one girl's Instagram, and I'm like, oh, okay, cosplay person. You're probably like like 150,000 to 200,000 some subs. No, like 3 million. I was like, oh wow, that's huge. That is way bigger than I thought. So that's that's where we're at with this kind of level of stuff. So we're gonna start seeing that more, I think, in the future. We're gonna start seeing it more and more commonly into the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The prizes for the cosplay contest are quite impressive too. Wasn't one it's like a magazine shoot or something like that for a big gaming
Yeah,
magazine. So there's
Hmm.
pretty high stakes. And is TGS the next stop for the cosplay contest? I'm not sure. Or is that Paris?
it is. Yeah,
It is? Okay, yeah. So they're gonna have that. And then I don't know when the grand finals or whatever is. End of the
I
year?
could imagine that they do that during some kind of release party.
Sure, yeah. That would make sense.
Wherever it's taking place, I could imagine that they fly people there to be present at the release party and then
Mm-hmm.
picking the final winner. Yeah,
Yeah.
and something which, for example, for European people, by the way, is also cool that they go to a Zurich game show in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
That they won't have a cosplay showing there, but they show the gameplay demo audience for 1,500 people in a huge theater, which is really cool. And I'm really looking forward to what people say and what people say about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a ton to look forward to.
Hmm.
Um, so we've been
So
going
there's
for. Go ahead.
oh, sorry, keep going.
I
I
was just
have
gonna say we've
another
been going
subject
for
that I
like
want to
70,
bring up.
70-ish minutes. So
Oh, okay,
if you
good,
guys have
good.
any additional
I
things,
will I want to address one thing that's been popping up more and more in my feed and
sure.
whatnot, and that's people claiming that we're going to see a delay for the game. I think that, being that it's only 7 months out, that this is pretty, and that they only made this announcement, at E3. If they didn't think that they could meet this deadline, then I don't think they would have said this is our deadline.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think that they would have just gone, well, I don't know if we'll be able to make it, so I mean, we'll just kind of like YOLO it, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think they're at that level right now. One of the things that you got to remember is that right now they've been working on a very low crunch schedule up until just this last year. Very few people were pulling more than 60 hours. Very, very few people were pulling more than 80 hours. And they can quickly ramp that up to 100 hours a week for pretty much everybody, and basically nearly double their time. You don't want to do that for more than a few weeks at a time, as somebody who routinely works over 100 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's actually it is actually kind of good for you to do that for 1 or 2 weeks out of every year. And it's actually quite healthy for you to work yourself very, very difficult, as long as you're prepared for it, as long as you have a set goal, and as long as you reach that goal, it's actually really, really healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It actually like helps you physically and mentally to become better at pretty much everything you do, because you're tackling stress in a certain way that actually encourages your body to like code new proteins and stuff like that. It's a very, very interesting thing. But
Mm-hmm.
this is not something that they've actively turned on for the entire company yet, or given the green light to really encourage. So we'll see this up until I think just recently. I think they've just started to do that. So we'll see this. And again, I think if they hadn't known, they would have said, spring or, early 2019. I don't think they would have given an exact date if that was the case.
Right.
Plus, it just measures up too much with a whole bunch of other things that are going on behind the scenes. So yeah,
And they have their whole
fear
marketing
not.
campaign planned out. So
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
I think they're ready to go. They may have a few more, day one patches than they might prefer. They may have a few more week one patches than they would necessarily prefer. But I think that what they have already is pretty close to a polished game. We all know
And they-
that we all know if this was EA, they would have released this like a year and a half ago.
And they even reassured that during investor chat like 2 weeks ago, I guess. They Piotr Nidobovic, he stated that towards the investors that they are really still committed to the launch they already mentioned before. So yeah, and he's one of the board members. Yeah.
yeah. So, any departing thoughts, you guys? I think we'll probably wrap it up. It's been kind of a slow week for news. Obviously, apologies because this was supposed to be on Mad Queen's show. So I think we're gonna go. Well, obviously it's on my channel this week, and then next week it's gonna be Last Known Meals because he'll be coming back, and then we'll jump to me again, and then we'll start the cycle. So it's kind of confusing. So apologies to you guys for that one. But yeah, any departing thoughts on the future or anything you guys want to plug?
There's some. It's going to be a really crazy busy fall. We've got some really cool stuff going on, and we've got some IRL events going on sometime soon. So keep subscribe and follow us on our Discord, on the Discords, on the Twitters, on the all of the YouTube channels. Follow us there because we've got some cool news coming up. So.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's about it for me.
Cool. I'm gonna drop Andre's website into the chat here. You guys can go
Yay.
check that out. It is in German, but you can always right click and then translate, and that should be sufficient for your guys' needs. We will see you guys next week. Peace out, guys.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Bye bye. Tschüss und auf Wiedersehen.